Welcome to Wednesday, you wonderful, curious, determined person. Today we are talking neurology and specifically the neurology of workplace trust and why your team can't feel connected when every conversation is scheduled. Welcome to Unshakable Her, the podcast helping women in leadership build the influence, visibility and presence to make promotion inevitable. I'm your host, Caroline Esterson. Let's get started. Today is Science Day, and by the end of it, you'll understand why trust is built faster in spontaneous, low-pressure moments than it is in scheduled meetings, and why your team can feel disconnected even when you speak all day. You'll see what information overload does to a room, a team, and your leadership presence when people are expected to absorb everything with no space to process it, and you'll learn why connection at work is not about adding more calls to the diary. It's about deliberately creating the margins with a human touch where trust, clarity, and influence can all flourish. Let's start with a question for you. When was the last time someone at work called you? Not a scheduled Teams meeting that went into the diary a week ago, and actually unplanned, unscheduled. I was just thinking of your call. Or maybe even dropped you a quick message in the same vein. Take a moment now, actually try and remember. If you're struggling, you're not alone. We talked about this last week, but I think it is so important. I want to take it a level deeper and look at it contextually this week. That kind of contact hasn't just got less frequent. For many of us, it has almost entirely disappeared. And we've adapted so completely to its absence that we've stopped noticing the gap it left. But here's the thing, your brain noticed, your nervous system noticed, and the trust you have or don't have in the people you work with, well, that noticed too. And I want to say something before we really get into this. When I talk about the disconnection paradox, and by the way, if you missed Monday's episode, go back. It's the foundation for everything we're doing this week. When I talk about the disconnection paradox, I'm talking about the fact that people who built these systems were solving a very real problem. That problem was, how do we keep working when we can't be in the same room? How do we keep people safe? How do we manage the liability of a workforce that is mobile, distributed, and always on? They solved it. Logistically and logically, they absolutely solved it. But they didn't know what the science now tells us. And that's what we're talking about today. Because, of course, once you understand why the brain responds differently to a spontaneous conversation versus a scheduled one, the whole thing stops feeling like a vague cultural problem and starts feeling like something you can actually do something about. And that is exactly where we want to be. The science bit, because facts beat fear every time. So today I want to share 3 sciencey bits with you, and we're going to start with the oxytocin gap. You've probably heard of oxytocin. It's the bonding hormone or the trust hormone. Both of them are roughly right. What oxytocin actually does is reduce the threat response in your brain. When it's present, you feel safer around other people. You're more likely to share openly, collaborate, maybe take a risk or two, or give someone the benefit of the doubt. And here's what triggers it. You ready? Physical presence. Eye contact, touch, a handshake, a pat on the shoulder, laughter, the unexpected, the spontaneous, the unplanned moment that says, I was thinking about you, completely unprompted, and I acted on it. And here's what doesn't reliably trigger it. A scheduled video call. A Teams meeting with an agenda, a message that says, can we find time to catch up this week? You might think it's the same thing logically, but your brain is also wired for other things in addition to logic. And your nervous system knows the difference between the two, even when your diary doesn't. So let's take this another level deeper now. When someone reaches out spontaneously without a reason, just because they thought of you, your brain reads that as a social signal. It says, I matter to this person. I'm in their thoughts, even when I'm not in their line of sight. that signal is disproportionately powerful. Research in social neuroscience consistently shows that the feeling of being thought about, genuinely, unexpectedly, is one of the strongest drivers of belonging and psychological safety at work. The scheduled call can't replicate it because the scheduled call, however warm and well-intentioned, says, I thought about you and I had a reason to. Whereas the spontaneous call says, you just popped into my mind because you're important to me. Louise, do you remember Louise from Monday, driving in silence for 3 hours? Could have been generating that signal for 6 or 7 people, small calls, a couple of minutes each without an agenda, just I was thinking of you, how's it going? And she wasn't allowed to. Fine, but nobody gave her an alternative. So those signals, 6 or 7 of them, compounded over months, over years, quietly stops arriving. And the people who used to receive them felt the absence without quite being able to name it. And finally, we dropped a teaser in Monday's episode, and it was about the action that Cara took in the briefing. When Cara asked for that 5-minute break, she wasn't just giving people a loose stop. She was interrupting a cortisol spike. A room full of people who'd been sitting still, receiving information they hadn't been asked to do anything with, were in a state of low-grade stress that was compounding with every slide. Cortisol, the stress hormone, suppresses the very cognitive functions that we need to actually absorb and use information, focus, working memory, and creative thinking. But movement resets it. You suddenly stop becoming a passenger. The simple act of standing up, choosing where to go, grabbing your coffee, that's a nervous system intervention. It's not a nice to have. It's the difference between a room that can think and a room that is just enduring. Cara didn't know the science. She knew the room, though, and she trusted what she saw. That, for the record, is exactly what good leadership looks like. Not the club, just bad processes. The system's the problem, not you. Let's fix it for you and the next one in. Right, so last week we talked about how the removal of these informal moments means that we've lost the incubator for influence. Those informal moments of connection and practice that help deepen our understanding of what's important to others. And when we look at it in the context of hybrid working as we are this week, we can see even more obviously the huge impact of the loss of these opportunities. We're talking specifically about the conditions that build trust and belonging at work. Spontaneous contact, physical presence, the unplanned moments have been systematically removed from the working environment. And the people who feel that removal most acutely are the ones who were already operating with less informal access. When we talk about who loses most when the informal disappears, we are talking disproportionately about women. And I want to be clear about why, because this isn't about your confidence, it is structural. And it was structural before hybrid working arrived. Hybrid working made it significantly worse. Here's what I mean. A lot of informal connection happened in spaces that were made by men decades ago by default, not by design, just by the quiet accumulation of who was there, what was being talked about, and whose life made it easy to stay. Things like the after-work drink, the football conversation that ran for 10 minutes before the meeting started, the golf game, the dinner after the conference. Nobody excluded women deliberately. The architecture just didn't actively include them. And if you have a hard stop at 5 because you need to go and collect the kids, or you don't follow the football, or you're navigating the exhausting tightrope of being warm enough to be liked, but not so warm you stop being taken seriously, you're already working harder just to access the room where the real relationships get built. And then there's the sponsorship gap that I want to highlight, because the informal connection that actually moves careers is not the mentor who meets you for coffee and gives you good advice. It's the person who says your name in the room when you're not in it. That's sponsorship. And it happens overwhelmingly in those informal settings, the places where women were already less likely to be. Research consistently shows that women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. There are plenty of people willing to give guidance. Far few are willing to put their names behind yours when the decision is being made. And that sponsorship conversation, the one that actually changes things, was happening in exactly the spaces that have now disappeared. So when hybrid working arrived and the informal opportunities were lost in it, it wasn't an equal loss. The women who'd worked hardest to access those spaces, who'd navigated the tightrope and stayed for the drink, shown up early for 2 minutes before the meeting, they're the ones that lost the ground and had nothing to replace it with. But now you know it exists, you can stop blaming yourself for feeling it and you can start doing something about it, which of course is exactly what we're here for. Now, I don't want to leave you with a story about a system and leave out the part where you have choices. So let's go back to Cara for a moment. Cara sat in the regional sales quarterly briefing. She saw what was happening. She had every reason to stay quiet. After all, she's new, junior. It wasn't her meeting to manage. But she chose to speak up anyway. A tiny sentence. And the people in the room and their energy and focus changed because of it. The system created the problem, but Cara created a crack in it. Those are both true. And you need both to be true to understand what's available to you. This isn't about the club. It really is just crack processes. And you don't have to be a passenger in this. So before we wrap up today, there are 3 questions I want to leave you with to reflect on. First, think about the last time someone genuinely sponsored you. Not mentored you, not gave you good advice over coffee, actually said your name in a room where a decision was being made when you weren't there to say it yourself. Who was it? And how did that relationship get built? And if you can't think of anyone doing that for you right now, what does that tell you? More importantly, what are you going to do about it? Second, where are you on the tightrope right now? The one between being warm enough to be liked and strategic enough to be taken seriously. Be honest with yourself. If you're erring so far towards likable that you've made yourself invisible, or are you so far towards serious that you've made yourself unapproachable? Because both cost you. And the informal moments, the ones that are disappearing, were the places where women learnt to walk that line. Without them, we have to be much more deliberate about where we're standing. And third, who in your organisation is doing the sponsoring right now? And are they saying your name? If you don't know the answer to that question, finding out is your very first move. Now, Friday, we answer those questions with something you can actually do, not a strategy or a framework, small, specific, grounded rules. Bring those questions with you. Right, as we wrap up, let's just land what you've got from today. You got the neuroscience, we talked about oxytocin, spontaneity, and the cortisol reset. It's not your brain being dramatic, it's responding to a genuine absence of something that it needs. Now you know why. You've got the structural context. The disconnection you feel at work is a system that solved a logistical problem, and in doing so, accidentally created a human one. And the people who feel it most are the ones with the least informal access to begin with. And then you got Cara. The morning after the meeting, she came in slightly different. Not transformed, just more certain that she'd seen something real, that the room had needed something, she'd named it, and it had worked. She started to trust what she sees, and that's no small thing. So onwards and upwards, Friday, we move specific, practical, 2mm moves that start rebuilding connection in a world that's accidentally engineered it out. We're also going to talk about what it means to make contact with purpose. Not more meetings, not more messages, a different question entirely, one that changes what you do before you even pick up the phone. And there may just be a song or 2. We'll see. Friday, don't miss it. That's it for today. Before you go, if something in this episode made you think, that's why I do that, hit follow wherever you're listening, because that moment of recognition, that's where Unshakable starts. Remember, I'm in your corner. See you Friday.